Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be going over how to get calls scheduled with prospects via messaging. Now, this training is going to be absolutely critical because especially in the beginning with organic marketing, you're going to be utilizing posting on social media via your content calendar that's discussed in other trainings, as well as messaging prospects. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this training, which is how to actually message prospects so that way you don't seem like you're some kind of salesy person, so that way you can actually see if somebody is interested, as well as just making sure that you are adhering to all of Facebook's policies and having the most amount of interest and engagement from your prospects. And so in this training, what we're really going to go over is a couple different things, okay? So we're going to go over what exactly is getting calls scheduled via messaging. We're going to talk about a brief training on playing the game of numbers with organic marketing and organic traffic. We're going to be talking about the two parts of the getting calls scheduled process, as well as some pointers that I have for you guys in regards to how to be the most successful with this new skill set, as well as how to actually download the scripts that we provide for you guys, okay? So the first off, let's go ahead and dive into it, which is what is getting calls scheduled via messaging. So this is the process and the scripts and the system that you are going to be utilizing in order to schedule calls with prospects using the messaging in conjunction with your posting. So this is basically the process and the scientific method that we've designed over a lot of years in order to help make sure that you guys can get calls scheduled with prospects utilizing messaging, okay? Now, in order to actually understand this, I need to make sure that I give you guys a proper strategic overview of what it means to actually play the game of numbers. Because what's going to happen is that if I just give you guys the scripts, you're going to go out there and message a couple people, and then you guys are going to come back to us and say, oh, it's not working, people don't reply, what's going on here, I don't think this is work for me, this doesn't really work. And all of that is coming as a result of not really understanding how to play the game of numbers when it comes to organic traffic. Now, I discussed this in other trainings, but you have to understand that there are two types of traffic in the marketing world. There's paid and there's organic. Now, paid is when you're actually paying money to Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever in order to have paid traffic. We have different trainings on that. Organic traffic is when you're actually utilizing social media organically to post content and then message people that way, okay? There's not one that is better than the other. They both have pros and cons. We talk about the pros and cons in other trainings, but I don't want to discuss that here. I just want to talk to you about playing the game of numbers with organic traffic, okay? So in order to play this game, just like any other game, you have to understand how it's played. And so what's going to happen is that this is a scientific game. It's really just a scientific game. Let me explain to you what I mean by here. Is basically what's going to happen is you're going to be sending out Facebook friend requests, and you're going to basically be getting interactions from people who are already your Facebook friends. What you're going to go ahead and do is once you have some sort of interaction, you're going to be sending them some sort of opening message. And I'm going to talk to you guys more about that here in a second. Once you send them an opening message, you're going to have a percentage of people that are going to reply, and you're going to have a conversation with them via the scripts that we provide for you guys. From there, those people who are actually interested, you're going to have them schedule a call. From there, you're going to have a percentage of people that will actually show up to the call, because not everyone who actually schedules is going to show up. And then from there, you're going to have a percentage that actually becomes a customer, okay? And so basically what you can see here is that our organic process that you do via your daily implementation process is what we call a funnel. And so a funnel is basically where you have a lot of things at the top and it funnels down to a smaller percentage. And this is why it's so important to understand the game of numbers, is because just because you send out 200 messages does not mean you're going to have 200 customers. You're going to be sending out a lot of Facebook friend requests, and that is going to trickle down into the small percentage of people who actually turn into customers. And so you can see here that the very first step is interactions, or what we call impressions in the marketing world. Then you have messages that you send out. Then you have people that have replied, and people that have replied are what we call leads, okay? People that replied in any way, shape, or form, that even if they said thank you, or if they said like some lukewarm message, they're typically considered leads, okay? From there, you're gonna have people that are call scheduled, call showed, and then customers. And then every single one of these steps in this funnel actually is what we call, has numbers to it. And so let's say, for example, you have 834 interactions. From there, you're going to have 30% of people that will go ahead and you're going to send messages to from there. 250 messages you send, 20% of those people will reply. So you get 50 replies, which is 20% of 250. 20% of those people will actually schedule a call. And then you're going to have 60% of those people will actually show up. And then 30% of those people will actually turn into customers, okay? Now, did we just come up with these numbers randomly? What if they're wrong? Good question. These are what we call KPIs and benchmarks. And so the cool thing is that we've literally had hundreds of people run similar funnels, both organically and in paid. And so therefore we have something that is basically a benchmark. And so if our numbers are outside of benchmark, right? If you're getting less than 30% of people that are closing into a customer, then that means that something is out of KPI. And so that means that we need to work on maybe your sales training. Let's say you're getting not enough people who are replying to your messages. That means we need to work on your messaging and how you're actually interacting with them. Let's say you're getting less than 60% of people to show up to your calls. That means we need to work on putting a process or a project in place so that way you can actually get more people to show up for your calls. So you can see here that this is a really scientific process and it is not random. And this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about because it's very important to understand even the organic process is scientific. And the numbers are going to tell us what the real story is and what the issues might be in the pipeline. The other thing you have to understand is that this is why it's called the playing game of numbers. If you don't have enough volume, then you don't have any customers at the end. So you can see here that I went ahead and changed the numbers, right? You can see here if I go back and forth. You can see here at the end, if we keep all the KPIs the same within the appropriate optimal levels, you can't have 0.6 of a customer. 0.6 of a customer is literally like half 0.6 of a person. You can't have 0.6 of a person, right? And so you can see here that if you don't actually send enough messages, you don't actually get enough interactions, with all of the funnel and how it breaks down, you will not end up with a customer at the end. And this is why it's so important to understand that volume is the name of the game in the organic game. And that is why it's so important to make sure that you are having enough volume and you're having enough consistency with your organic, okay? And so you can see here that the game of numbers with organic traffic is 100% predictable with numbers. The numbers will tell us a story of what's going on and where the problem lies in the pipeline. And this is exactly why we have you guys track your numbers so that way we can make sure that all of that is going according to plan. And so I'm not going to dive too much into this in terms of the actual numbers because that's going to be talked about in a separate training regarding the game of numbers. But you can see here that there's different numbers for outbound, which means you messaging people. And then there are different numbers for inbound, which is people actually showing interest in you via the posting that you are doing consistently. And so all of those numbers break down so that way you can predictably know what are your numbers in order to get a customer. And again, I'm not going to go deeper into that in this training. I just wanted to give you guys a high level overview so that way you can understand that that process is entirely numbers oriented and it is entirely predictable. Now, let's go into the actual two parts of the process and what you're going to be doing in order to message people and actually get calls scheduled. The very first part of this process is what we call the opening message. Okay, now the opening message is going to change depending on where the lead is coming from. The opening message is basically the initial message that you are sending to prospects. And so if the client is cold prospect, meaning they've never heard of you, they've never interacted with you, the opening message would be different. If they are a warm prospect, meaning that they have showed some sort of interest via your posting, via, they joined your Facebook group, they, friended you as a friend, that might be a warm lead. And then a hot client would be somebody who is referred to you from a previous client, something like that. Depending on the type of traffic, the opening message is going to change. And I'm going to talk to you guys more about that here in a second. The second part of this process is the actual get call scheduled sequence, okay? And these are the questions that lead the prospect to saying, yes, I want to schedule a phone call with you. And the second part always pretty much stays the same, except for a couple of changes that I'll talk to you guys about right now. So let's go ahead and go through the script together so that way you can understand what it is that we are talking about. So I'm going to be providing you guys these exact scripts, and I'm going to talk to you about how to get these scripts into your computer later on in this training here. But I want to talk to you about here is that you have your openers, which are your opening messages, and then you have your get call scheduled sequence. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at an example of an opener. So this is an example of an opener where, let's say, for example, the client, the prospect goes ahead and they accept you as a friend request. So you say, hey friend, happy Tuesday. I just wanted to say thank you for connecting with me. Super random, but I help I help busy moms over the age of 40 lose 35 pounds in 6 weeks. If you or anyone else needs help with that, let me know. Hope you have an awesome day. Looking forward to hearing from you. This is typically a message that we go ahead and message the client via the voice message. And that is my big recommendation to you guys, is that you guys do utilize voice messages and videos because those are going to get a higher open rate with people actually replying. So here is an example that we have provided for you guys. And all you need to do is once you actually download this script, which I'm going to talk to you guys more about how to do that, all you do is you click into that. and you're just going to edit these parts right here. So that way it's literally just copy and paste for you, and it becomes very, very easy for you to go ahead and actually just copy and paste on your computer to Messenger very, very quickly. So that way you can get your messages sent out very, very easily, okay? Or if you're going to be utilizing voice messages, it's very easy for you to read off of as well, okay? In terms of a hot leads opener plus a goals message. Hey, awesome. Well, the reason I'm reaching out is because I'm launching a new one-on-one coaching program this week on how to shed fat, tone up, and keep it off forever by focusing on nutrition and lifestyle changes within 12 weeks. The average client loses 18 to 27 pounds of fat. I think you may be perfect for it. What would you say is your main goal health-wise? Weight loss, toning, or both? You see, this is a little bit more of a direct message because this is for hot leads. Now, the whole point of an opening message is all we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to reply to some sort of message. Because as soon as they reply, we're going to hit them with the sequence here. And the sequence is made up of 7 messages. And so the first message is the goals message. Hey, you're awesome, friend. Now, obviously, friend, when you copy the message, you want to put their name there. Don't say friend in capital letters. They'll be like, that doesn't make any sense. So you go ahead and put their name there. And then you say, what would you say is your main goal health-wise? Weight loss, toning, or both? This is what we call a kind of like a message bait, because it's a very, very, very easy, low barrier to entry message for them to go ahead and reply to, but it goes ahead and starts the sequence, okay? And then sometimes I go ahead and add this to the end of that message. You guys can delete that if you want, which is, I'll gladly introduce you to others in my network or offer advice or free resources if I can help on my end. This is sometimes a message that I will include, sometimes I will not. You guys can kind of see how we play it, depending on if you want to have a softer or a harder approach, a more direct approach, okay? Now, as soon as they reply to this first message, the second message is going to be, got it. So you're trying to lose weight, right? And you just insert whatever goal that they said. I totally get it. What's been your biggest struggle or hurdle? What we're doing is we're basically opening them up and we're asking them super low barrier to entry questions so that way the conversation can get flowing. And that is the second message of this sequence, okay? I'm telling you, we've tested this sequence hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. This is the optimal sequence that works the best. And what you want to go ahead and do is you just want to understand the sequence and then play it according to how the conversation is flowing so that way you don't sound like a robot. The third message on here says, 100%, that's always the tough part because they've gone ahead and replied to the previous message, which said that their biggest struggle was, eating veggies, or their biggest struggle is not eating junk food, or their biggest struggle is not eating chocolate at night, or whatever that might be. So it says 100%. That's always the tough part. It's so great that you're even aware of what you need to focus on, and I totally get it. But I have a bunch of clients who are in the same boat. Definitely have some suggestions for you if you even want to hear them. I just like to ask before spurting out advice, lol. Now, obviously, this is written in text format, so that way it's definitely like DEF. So that way it seems a little bit informal, so that way it's not like you're chatting with a robot or anything like that, okay? Again, this is a copy and paste text. There's really nothing that you need to change inside of this specific message. Message number 4, awesome. I'm thinking it might take me 23,498 pages to type out what I had in mind. Haha. I usually find it works best for us to hop on a quick chat for a few minutes. That way we can dive into the topic in depth more quickly. Would you be up for that? Do afternoons or evenings typically work better for you? No pressure. Obviously, if you want to do calls in the morning, you can change this to do mornings or afternoons work better for you, but that message typically works to just get them to reply pretty easily, okay? And so that message, there's nothing to really change in that either, and that is message number 4. Message number 5, awesome. Hey, if I send you the link to my calendar now, would you be able to choose a time that works best for you for that quick chat? You wait for them to reply. Don't message anything else, just send that message right there. Message number 6, awesome, friend. Again, you want to go ahead and put their name there once you copy the script. Here's that schedule link. Just pick whatever time works best for you or whatever time works best for you. Yep, exactly. And then right here, once you actually download this script into your computer, you want to take your Calendly link and you want to put it right there so that way it's copy and paste and it's very easy for you to go ahead and just copy this message, okay? This is message number 1. You hit enter, you send that. Right after you send that message, there is this second message right here. This is an absolutely critical message to also go ahead and send right after, which is, I'm going to keep my chat open and wait for you now. Once you grab a time, can you let me know so I can confirm it on my side? This is an absolutely critical message to send after the first message. Why? Because if you only send this first message, they're literally not going to book and they're going to say, oh yeah, I'll do it later, and they're not going to do it. So this second message right here actually adds more urgency because they know that you are waiting for them. And so that's why you go ahead and send this first message, you hit enter, and then you send it, and then you go ahead and immediately send a second message with this message part right there. That is the message 6 of this entire sequence. Once they go ahead and say that they've actually booked, you go ahead and send, perfect, you're awesome. I saw it come through to our calendar. I can't wait to talk to you at that time. Obviously, you want to go ahead and check in your Calendly if the call actually came through as well. So you can see here that these are the 7 messages that we've proven over and over and over again. This is what we call the get call scheduled sequence. As soon as they reply to something in the opener, you want to go ahead and have them walk through this entire sequence one by one by one by one, because that's really going to get the optimal open rates as well as the optimal show up rates from there. And then also we've gone ahead and included a follow-up message for you. So if the client drops off anywhere inside of the sequence, you just go ahead and send them, hey, wanted to thank you again, Amy. I'm sure you're like me. I get so many notifications from every social media site. I always end up reading the message and never getting a chance to reply. I just thought I'd circle back around, and then you just insert right there the last question that you were at. So let's say, for example, it was the what's your biggest hurdle message. You say, hey, I just thought I'd circle back around. What's been your biggest hurdle? Would love to hear your thoughts. Hey, I just thought I'd circle back around. What's your biggest goal health-wise? Weight loss, toning, or both? And so that way, that is one follow-up message. Now, one thing I'll also go ahead and mention is that over time, as you start to get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of repetitions of messaging and messaging and messaging every single day, you might start to make small tweaks to some of these messages. That is perfectly fine, but only do that after you've done a lot of repetition, because these are the messages that we've tested and we've tweaked over a lot of repetition, okay? Some of the other opening messages that are in here, let's say somebody liked your post. You'd say, hey, Amy, how the heck are you? I saw that you liked our post, or you can say my post. Thank you. You're awesome. And we haven't had a chance to connect. What do you do for work? Does it keep you busy? Now, this last question here, instead of having this question, you can go ahead and replace that with the goals message question if you feel that's more appropriate. Again, do not be a robot. Kind of go with the flow and see how things feel naturally, and kind of just messaging people like a normal human being, okay? There's some other opening messages that you guys can explore there, and as you guys find other opening messages that work for you, you literally can just add them as another card on here, like another opening message. And then you just go in here and type in the message right there, okay? And so that is the scripts, and that is the 2-part process, which is the opening message as well as the get call scheduled sequence. Now, a couple pointers to this. After you send them the opening message, you get a feel of where the prospect's urgency is. Because what that means is that depending on how much they share with you and how much they reply, that is going to give you an idea of how warm that prospect is, okay? And so if their answers are short and to the point, or you just get a sense that they're not ready to share what's going on in their lives, just add some values and pick up the conversation later on. Don't try to force the conversation. Try to be a normal human being, and that way you'll get an idea of how the conversation is flowing, okay? If they're giving you long answers and really opening up and answering questions about their goals and challenges, then you can go ahead and make sure that you expedite this call process. If it doesn't feel like they're ready for the goals message, just continue the conversation, kind of like go around, talk to them about other things if they're having to do so, but be careful about that too. You are not trying to go ahead and have long conversations about people's dogs or people's camping trips or anything like that. Be really to the point. Hey, I saw that you liked my post. What's your main goal? Be really, really direct to the point, so that way you can make sure that you're being efficient with it and not just having long conversations with people all day long as well, okay? And so those are some of the pointers that I wanted to go ahead and mention regarding this messaging process, and it is absolutely a skill set. This is one more thing I want to mention. Getting calls scheduled via Messenger is a skill set. The very first time that you learned how to squat, deadlift, drive a car, swim, it felt overwhelming because you didn't have the skill. You want to develop the skill of learning how to be able to get calls scheduled via Messenger, and it's going to take repetition, and you're going to suck in the beginning, but you have to be willing to suck long enough until you actually get good. I'm telling you, we've tested this process hundreds and hundreds of times. It absolutely works if you put in the work, okay? Let's go ahead and talk about how to download the scripts. So right underneath of this training is a section in the resources section that says Organic Leads Pipeline. What you are going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and click on this link right there. It is going to take you over to a Trello board. What you're going to do is once it opens up to that Trello board, you're going to go over to Show Menu. You're then going to go over to, whenever it decides to load, there we go, Show Menu. You're going to click on More. You're going to click on Copy Board. And then you're going to select your team. Now, your team should be the same team that you have shared with us for OFP coaching. What you're going to title this board as is the title right underneath this training, which is 1.space LGFB organic leads pipeline. And I'm going to tell you why we're going to title it that here in a second. You're going to leave keep cards and you're going to leave keep template cards, and then you're going to click on create. That is going to go ahead and make your own copy of this Trello board, okay? And you want to make sure that you put it on the right team. That should be the same team that you utilize for OFP coaching. That is going to give you access to all of the scripts that are in there. Now, the rest of these lists that are on here, warming up, what are your goals, struggle, permission, transition to call, all of these other ones, these are lists that you are going to utilize when you actually get to the leads tracking system. And so your coach might put on your action board for you to set up the leads tracking system, because this is the same board that we utilize for that. So don't get overwhelmed right now. For all those other parts inside of the board, don't worry about them. When you actually get to the leads tracking system, that's when all of that will make sense to you. And also when you get to that section, do not make a duplicate, because it is the exact same board as well. And then at the end of the board, there are some other scripts as well. These are scripts that you are going to be utilizing once you go through the Facebook group training. So right now, don't worry about them either. For right now, this is what's going to be the most important thing for you until you get to some of those other trainings, okay? So make sure you go ahead and make a copy of that organic pipeline Trello board, so that way you can go ahead and get the scripts and get rocking and rolling. So this has been the training on getting calls scheduled via messaging. Go out there, utilize the scripts, do it step by step by step, get calls scheduled, and absolutely crush it. I will catch you guys on the next training.